So I wanted to come on here and share with you guys some things that I have learned from other traditions that were more than okay to borrow, that have helped me in my daily practice. One of which is this: the covering of the head and the covering of the neck. Now, I learned many years ago that spirits can attach to you. I learned that back when I was ghost hunting back in the day. So I learned back then that they could attach to you pretty much anywhere. And we had many different people on our ghost hunts say that they felt something on their legs or something on their shoulders, but mainly it was upper body, and they felt heaviness, or they felt something like lingering behind their ears. So as I pursued this spiritual journey, I learned that was a very real thing, that spirits oftentimes do attach themselves to the back of your neck. And I've said it in many videos, because when that happens, you feel a heaviness on your shoulders and a heaviness on your neck. And that's because it's attached. It's believed that it's usually the dead that do that, but I have heard of other spirits that do that as well. So that's why people will wear something covering their neck or something covering their head. So that's also why some people wear hoodies. I noticed that a buddy on here, Rey de Oros, has mentioned in his videos that's why he wears a hoodie when he's doing his videos, because you never know where that can come from. And if I'm wrong, Rey de Oros, please let me know in the comments. But that's one reason why it's good to wear something on your head and protecting your neck, because spiritual attachments. So that was something that I borrowed from when I was learning Palo, when I was learning about some basics of Espiritismo. That was important, and I still utilize that today. One other thing that I think is important, that isn't mentioned all too much, that I take into consideration when I'm doing a sweeping, or I'm doing an egg cleansing on myself, is I take into consideration the joints. Now, if you go to mexicolore.co.uk, it's a hub of information on Mexica practices and on findings, archaeological findings. There will be an article that you'll read about how they believed that the joints were entry points. So the shoulders, the neck, I believe even a portion of the chest, the hips, the knees, all your joints, all of them were entry points to evil spirits. And so they did what they could to protect those points. Now, if you take that notion and you transfer it on over into the modern day practices of Mexican curanderismo, you'll see that they'll mark the joints when they're doing the cleansings. Now, did I have a definitive source that says that yes, this is why they mark the joints, because of the old Mexica belief of the joints being the entry points to evil? I don't have any solid evidence to prove that, but it does make sense to me. And in certain Espiritismo groups, they'll mark the joints with cascarilla, which is a chalk eggshell or egg. It's either chalk, eggshell, or shell powder. It all depends on how they mix it up. But it's a white dust that they mark their joints with a cross. And it's for protection. So that's something that I still utilize today. I mark all the joints because it is believed that those are entry points to evil. There's another correlation that I want to make, but I don't think that it might be stretching. If you look at old medieval art and you look at pictures of demons, you'll notice that some of the demons have faces or jaws or mouths on their joints. Now, that may be stretching, but with the way colonization happened and them turning all the old gods into demons, maybe it has something to do with something, maybe it didn't, I don't know. But those are just a couple of things that I have brought in to my personal spiritual practice that have worked really well for me. Another that I borrowed that a lot of people do is wearing white after a cleansing, because it is believed that white will keep you pure for that day you know, going on into the rest of your week, the rest of your month, if you wear white. So just a few protective measures and interesting things that I have found in the past few years that I've been studying this, that I have noticed can be beneficial to me, and can be beneficial to anybody watching this. So that's it. Hey guys, I think it's important for you guys to know, who are just starting to like burn 7-day candles or burn candles in general for whatever it is that you're asking for, whatever it is that you're petitioning for. Sometimes those candles are not going to burn all the way down, especially 7-day candles. And the reason being, in my personal experience, is because you're approaching what you're petitioning in a way in which is not going to work best for you. So say you're petitioning for love and the candle doesn't burn all the way down. Well, that means you're not going to get what you're petitioning because something is in the way. Or you might need to restructure what it is that you're actually asking for. Say that you're asking for love and that person's already married. Well, then likely that candle's not going to burn all the way down because that marriage is already is fighting against you. Or say that that person is in trouble, or is not the person you thought they were going to be, or is going to use you, you know, or something like that, and that candle doesn't burn all the way down, that's actually to your benefit. So there's a lot of reasons why your candle won't burn all the way down, and it's not always because the candle itself is faulty. It's spiritually because there's something standing in the way. And yes, that means that you might need to reevaluate your approach. It means that you might have to buy a different candle. It might mean that you have to petition for a different purpose before you petition for the original purpose. So maybe in this case, petition for a cleansing of your environment, a cleansing of the situation, a clearing, or a blockbuster, you know, or self-love rather than from somebody else. You know, that kind of stuff happens all the time. And unfortunately, it even happens when you're trying to do a clearing. Something stands in your way. Something is resisting you. So that'll oftentimes happen when a person is only seeing the end goal and they're not seeing the process in between. This spiritual work is kind of sort of like physical work. You know, there's baby steps in between. It's not just like all a finger coming out of the sky and granting you a miracle. It doesn't always work like that. You have to attract what you want, but in doing so, you also attract all of the junk that comes along with it sometimes. So, if that indeed ever does happen for a person that I'm doing a petition for, I'll let them know if they're interested. You know, it's not usually a big deal. It just means that it needs to be restructured. That's all. Maybe even divination done on it as to why it didn't burn, you know, because there may be some things that you're not seeing. And ultimately, yes, it's going to cost another candle. If I'm doing it for you, it's going to cost another candle because you know what? Like, candles cost money. And it means that it's going to just be more time that you might have to wait for your petition to come through if you're going through a third person like me or like somebody else. That's just the way the world of spiritual merchantry works. So just wanted to bring that up in case you guys were ever wondering about why didn't my candle burn all the way through. There's probably a problem. There's probably a problem with what you're seeking. If it's a dedication candle, I mean, maybe that spirit wants something else, you know? Do some divination on it. If you don't know how to do divination, if you don't know how to ask questions, get a coin. And one side yes, one side no. One side means yes, one side means no. And just ask that way. Divination don't gotta be hard. You can do a series of yes, no questions, find out what the problem is. So that's about it. Talk to you later. Honestly, this is just going to be my opinion because I've had this question asked to me and I've helped a couple of people through this and I have myself done it. But I know that there's a book circulating out there that's telling people to give Santa Muerte their life force. Looking back in retrospect, I don't see the point of this. Now I understand why people were telling me in the very beginning, all of that is not necessary. Because honest to goodness truth, it's not. The truth of the matter is that exchange, if you observe her energy, if you observe who she is as a spirit, that exchange is for you. It's not for her. That's for you. That's for whatever reason you wanted to do it. You thought maybe that would get you closer. You thought maybe that would seal something. You thought maybe that would bring you something. But the Santa Muerte that I honor and venerate, it did nothing. It was just kind of like, okay, why are you giving me this? What do I want this for? You know, like, this is pointless. It's like giving it to your grandma. What does she want it for? You know? She doesn't feed off of that. I mean, she doesn't. Not the Santa Muerte that you and I venerate. She doesn't feed off of that. You're giving her the most expensive thing that you can possibly give her and that you can give anybody, and that's your time. That's something that your body won't regenerate. That's something that you will never get back. That's most important. Your time and your energy. It sounds cheesy. It may not sound all extravagant in Hollywood and spooky-ooky and scary, and I sound all badass when I say it, but it's the truth. If you give anything or anyone your time, that's the most important thing that you can give them, because you're not going to get it back, ever. No matter how much you try, no matter if you drank a youth potion, you wouldn't be able to get your time back. So, I don't see the point. I don't see the point in wasting your time, wasting your energy, doing something like that kind of ritual that book is circulating around. I don't see the point. And, you know, people are not very smart sometimes. You can risk infection if you do things wrong. You know, like, I don't want you guys to think that ritual in and of itself even serves a purpose. You know, if you're venerating the same Santa Muerte that I'm venerating, she's not some bloodthirsty spirit. She's not. So, but that's something that you're going to get to learn after you spend real time with her. If you've just opened up a book and it tells you, oh, you got to do this, it's going to be pointless. You're going to find out, if you're still doing this in a couple of years, that it was pointless. So, now you know. A lot of people on this app are not what you would call an occultist. So, they don't really study the laws and the rules of magic and of mystical things. They're more so, as been coined before, folk practitioners. And oftentimes the religion that they follow is Catholicism. Oftentimes, not all the time. And so people don't really think of the things that they do as magic. They think of it as prayer, or they think of it as a petition. But nonetheless, they're still very, very religious and God-fearing people. So, if you're occult-minded and you go to a spirit that you want to work with that occult mindset, you're going to attract the variation of that spirit that is occult-minded, just like you. So, oftentimes, like attracts like. It's like a magnetism. So, see, that's what's happened with me, with many different spirits. And with those different spirits, they either connected with what I was attracting or they didn't. And that's why I have gone through so many. The ones that stuck are the ones that I was looking to utilize for their abilities, you know. So the Santa Muerte that I got is venerators, or I should say an original Devotos Santa Muerte, where she is a holy being, where you petition her, where you can do your run-of-the-mill spell work with her. But more times than most, the Santa Muerte that I attracted is not the old school one where you do like death curses and torture animals, you know, and stuff like that. I didn't attract that Santa Muerte, but she very much does exist. I attracted a very nun-like Santa Muerte, and that's why she appears to me oftentimes as a nun. And that's not uncommon. It's actually been documented that she can appear to people that way. So now, for example, the San La Muerte that I attracted and very much do love and work with is not the one that the majority of the followers in Argentina or in Paraguay follow. You know, he's a different representation, and he has many. He has many representations, just like Santa Muerte does. The one that I attracted was the occult variation, the one who wants to work, the one who is a divine lawyer, but he's going to defend who he wants to defend. And the more you devote your time and the more you devote your energy to him, he's going to defend you. No matter what. Doesn't matter. As a true lawyer would do. So I just wanted to express for the people that might be feeling confused as to why, I don't understand, you know, why isn't the spirit that I'm calling do this for me? Well, it's because of what you were emitting. If you were emitting desperation, and at the core of you, you wanted to say, ask that spirit for money, then that's the one that you're going to attract, and you have to treat it accordingly. You have to treat it, that spirit, as if it's the type of spirit that's going to bring you money. And the difference between a lot of people is something that also people are not acknowledging, and that's the difference between a practitioner and a occultist and somebody who's religious but just doesn't realize they're religious. So one person is going to demand and one person is going to ask. And then there's the people, of course, that are in the middle. Everybody says they're in the middle, but they're really not. I used to think I was in the middle, but I'm not. I'm more of the type of person that petitions rather than demands. And I'm okay with that. Because it allows me avenue to weigh the pros and cons of every situation. You know, I'm almost not held liable in a lot of instances. I ask the judge if it's okay, you know, because if karma does exist, I don't want to pay extra karma, but then again, I don't believe in karma. But anyways, yeah, so, you know, I just wanted to put that out there. You attract what your frequency is. So if you ever complain that the spirit is not like this or the spirit is not like that, I'm sorry, but that's kind of your fault. You know, it's what you were wanting. Some spirits are syncretized, you know. There are some spirits that are hidden behind saints. So oftentimes people are not aware of this and say they're discovering themselves, say that they're up and coming people that are interested in the occult, or they're interested in witchcraft or whatever. You might be tapping into a pre-existing entity that's not just a saint or not just the spirit that you think it is, but it's also a synchronization of several different things. And that could be what you're attracting. So this is why a lot of people say vet the spirits for tricksters. A lot of the times there's not tricksters. It's just a combination of different thought forms. A thought form is essentially a spirit that has been created by people. So you could have been attracting a thought form, but you thought you were attracting Santa Barbara. And I'm just throwing that as an example. You could have thought you were attracting, and people do this even though they don't admit it, you could have thought you were attracting Papa Legba, but you're attracting something completely else. And people do it. I'm not going to deny that people do it, even though it's a closed practice, you know. They still do it. But, you know, this is another reason why it's such a lengthy process to be on your way to becoming an occultist or be on your way to becoming a versed practitioner, is because all these different things can happen in your spiritual growth that you're unaware exist. It's like the Fool card, you know. You're insanely optimistic about your path and your progression, but there's just so many pitfalls that you're unaware of, and you're not going to be aware of them until you actually experience them. And nobody can experience them for you. You have to do it yourself. And I think that this is important to experience it yourself, because then you come up with your own methods. I think it's important to understand the methods of the past, but once you become fully aware and fully versed on those methods, I think it's okay to evolve and create your own. This is where the whole Book of Shadows comes from. Those are experiments that have either worked or not. It's a log, it's a diary. My teacher and good friend showed me that. So it's not just a simple spell book. It's categorizations. It's trials and errors. It's everything. It's a diary. You know, that's why some of the stuff in old grimoires didn't work for people. Also because there were traps set up in those grimoires, but that's a whole nother subject. But yeah, I think that just more study has to happen for people. More experimentation. People are afraid to experiment. How will you ever know? And at the end of your journey, you will have likely realized that you are stronger than you think you are, and that you attracted everything in your path. You attracted everything towards yourself. More power to you. Y'all see me advertise the gallina negra a lot, the black hen, but I can't even begin to tell you all of the things that I've seen it do. It's like a spirit animal in and of itself. And its magical abilities are just like beyond explanation. I don't have enough time to tell you the stories that I've heard from the people that, like for me personally, that I've done the gallina negra for. Crazy. And I can't get too specific because of confidentiality, but let me just tell you, the gallina negra has helped with finances. She's helped with health. She's helped with road openings. She's helped with getting jobs. She's helped with like very, very, very specific situations. But all in all, she's a cleaner. That's what she does. Think about what people have used the chicken for in antiquity. They've used it to clean people. They've used it as an offering. Very rarely do they use the chicken in negative workings. It's usually an offering. It usually helps to dissolve anything that's attached to the person. And let me tell you, I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. And helping, I want to be so specific, but I can't. Help in health situations that you would not figure it would help in. Help with spiritual attachments that are so strong you would not figure that she would help with that. But she did. She completely annihilated and absorbed. That's what she does. She absorbs the negative that's around a person. I choose to see her kind of like a spiritual antibiotic. She kills all of it, you know, by absorbing it. And that's why they use the black, because the black is for absorption. But let me tell you, man, if you haven't tried a gallina negra working, you need to. You definitely need to. Everybody needs a gallina negra working at least once a month, I'm telling you. Like, that is probably the best bath, probably the best working, probably the best, what I see as spirit animal or spiritual working that you could possibly ask for. So definitely look more into it.
She's my little brat. Yes, she is. Look at her. Look at her.
You shut up. Nobody's talking to you.
Look at the baby. Look at the baby. Look. Oh, she's a little baby. Yes.
I just wanted to post a public service announcement. I know that a lot of people were probably not raised Catholic, and I know that a lot of people were not raised in a Spanish-speaking environment. And a lot of the people that are on this channel follow La Santa Muerte, right? But I just want you to know that if you're in public or if you're talking to someone who's Catholic or who speaks Spanish, you have to be very specific with how you refer to La Santa Muerte, because her name means the most holy death, right? Or it means the holy death in English. But if you only refer to her as Santita, Santa, Santísima, La Niña Bonita, or any other moniker that insinuates femininehood or sacred a position, they're going to think that you're talking about the Virgin Mary. Okay? I'm just letting you know. If you refer to her by any of the first part of her moniker, the descriptive part rather than the muerte part, they're going to think that you're talking about the Virgin Mary if they don't know. So, just wanted to share that info, just so you knew.
En el beat.
Okay, so you know how people will say that Santísima Muerte appears to people when they're going through times of trauma and through heartache and through bad moments in their life, or they had like a near-death experience, or somebody recently passed away in their family, somebody's about to pass away, or they're accepting their mortality because they're about to pass away, or all these different cases. But there are those cases, and this is something that you don't hear mentioned too often because I guess nobody really pays attention. But you ever notice those cases where a person will have no involvement with Santa Muerte, and then they'll have a friend become a devotee, or somebody will pop up in their life that's a devotee, and they'll have like impact? Hold on, sorry. I apologize for the noise in the background. My son doesn't want to lower his Switch tablet. So anyway, his Nintendo Switch. But anyways, you'll notice like, oh, all of a sudden I have this friend that's a Santa Muerte follower, or the Santa Muerte devotee. And this is not meant to talk crap. This is actually kind of a blessing in disguise. Her devotees will also pop up when a person is about to go through those times. Have you ever noticed that? And have you ever noticed that those people, it's like they just go off the rails and they just kind of disappear? It's because we, as her followers, are a representation of her. And we can show up in people's lives when they're about to go through the worst moments of their life. We can show up when they're about to go through that trauma, when they're about to go through that breakup or the death in the family. And it's a horrible link, and it's a very taxing position to be in, because it's looking at it from an aerial view, it in a very simplistic view, it makes it look like we're the bad guys, but we're not. You know, a lot of times we're a warning, and a lot of times we're not meant to stay in that person's life. We're meant to show up as a as a town crier or as a bell ringer, like, hey, heads up, watch out, protect yourself, be prepared, open your eyes, get yourself out of la la land, something's about to happen, you know? And those people don't stick around, or we don't stick around because we weren't meant to. We are the ones that end up being the messenger. Have you ever noticed that? That has happened to me quite a bit. And that has happened to people that I know that are devotees quite a bit. When you carry Santa Muerte within you, which I'm going to give you a secret, she is within you, because she is your mortality. And that's a trade secret that a very, very, very wise friend of mine took years to tell me and took years for me to understand. She is you, you are her, and that's why there are so many differentiations between everybody's practice of Santa Muerte, but some people aren't ready to hear that. But anyways, when we are a beacon of her, we have the ability to just kind of show up in people's lives, and we may look like ruiners of lives, and we may look like the ones who brought the mayhem and the chaos, but that mayhem and that chaos was going to happen eventually anyways. We got there before it did, and we were a symbol of a warning. I know that sounds crazy, but really, 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 really track back and think about it. Think if you've been that person. And it can also go on the opposite end of the spectrum. We show up when that chaos and that trauma is about to happen, but it ends up that person is versed or is open to changing their life, and their life is forever better from there. So it's almost kind of like we show up during the neutrality of the situation of change, very much like the death card in the tarot deck, the new agey version. And whether they decide to live their life better or live their life worse, we were there before it happened. Have you noticed that? I don't know if it's just me, but I don't know, just something to think about. Have you ever been in that position? Because I'm in that position a lot. Like, it's either this life change and their life is forever amazing, or their life is just forever in the pits. And is entirely up to that person to decide where it's going to go, you know? So, I don't know, share your thoughts, whatever you think, and if you've seen that happen. Did you know that back in the day you were not supposed to show off your protective pendants or your medallions? You were supposed to keep them hidden underneath your clothes. Well, of course, back then people were a little bit more covered up than they are now, but the whole point was that it was supposed to be like a secret weapon. It was supposed to be a personal secret weapon. And the moment that people laid their eyes on it, they took its power away. Now, 99% of us don't abide by those rules anymore, but I decided I'm taking that back. Obviously, you know, I'm wearing one right now. But, like, the deal is I can take it off. I can re-emphasize its purposes and, put it back on. Like, it's not, like, damaged forever if people look at it. You just gotta do it over again because they took its power away. I want to share my experience about when I had my encounter with somebody who's multifaceted, but that did exude vampiric qualities. We agreed to this, by the way. They asked me if I wanted to partake in an experiment, And the experiment was to be vampirized, to be drained. I agreed. I was like, for the sake of spiritual science, let's do it. I'm all for it. There was like maybe 2 minutes of silence. And everything was fine. I got up, walked away, went about my day. It wasn't until the next day when I felt it. I felt suicidal. There was really nothing but a door stopping me from jumping into oncoming traffic. And I really wouldn't have cared either. It was that intense. I was that low. And I knew what happened. I knew that I got myself in this situation. I knew that I agreed to this for the sake of spiritual science. I knew that I offered myself up for this experiment. So all I can tell you is if you meet a good one, if you meet the right one, all it's going to take is a couple of minutes and they can take you out. Now, do I think that it's as common as people say it is? No. I think that there's variations. I think that there's a spectrum. Like, I can do it to somebody, but it won't make them suicidal. I can do it to a point to where they're just like, and they just kind of want to go to sleep. But that's mainly just me being annoying and taking of someone's time. I do it to people all the time. But it's not really intentional. And I think that some people have a natural ability to do so. But I was always raised to think that that wasn't a good thing. But I guess in different communities it's seen different ways. But this is all coming up because, I'm reading some books that address it and stuff like that. But I've had a personal encounter with it, and I just wanted to share with you guys.